So last week we actually finished that first essay called Kocho Shel Vidui, the power of Vidui. But what I want to do is Rav Soloveitchik has a little note here, and it's in the note that he discusses, because we basically in this whole thing of Vidui, what we spoke about very much was the Vidui of the Kohen Gadol, and how that everything is based on the Vidui of the Kohen Gadol. The thing is that what Rav Soloveitchik says is that he asks the question, he says, how do we then transpose that vidui from the Kohen Gadol really into the individual vidui, into our own personal? And he says the following, that if we look in the Rambam says, Ketzad mitvadim, how do you do the vidui? You say, Ana Hashem, remember this plea, this cry out from the very essence of ourselves. Ana Hashem, chatati aviti pashati tifanecha, that I've done all these aveirahs, I've done all these sins, I've done all these things. Va'asiti kach v'kach, and did X, Y, and Z. Nusach zehulam is a vidui shel Kohen Gadol. We said it's all based on the Kohen Gadol. Al Klal Yisrael, the Makaven Keneged as Adonis, Hashkagas, Hapshaim, and it's all focused on Klal Yisrael, who have to now, who the Kohen Gadol on behalf of Klal Yisrael, he does the vidui. It says, but an individual who comes to do the vidui on his own aveirahs, or chata'im mesuyamim, or on specific aveirahs. There can be like a general aveirah term, and then there's specific aveirahs. So here you have a guy who's coming to do vidui on his specific aveirahs, and he says, what does he do? Mefared for him there. He says, "Va'asiti kach v'kach." He has to say, "I've done X, Y, and Z." So he says, if that's the case, if you're going to say anyway, I've done X, Y, and Z, which means that you know what you've done and you know that you have to do the vidui, then what's the point of saying chatati aviti pashati? Then saying, and I sinned and I've done all these terrible things together. On that note, I just want to explain what is it. We have different names of different aveirahs. There's a chait, there's a pesha, there's avon. So what do they really mean? So the Malbim in Ayelet HaShachar says the following. He says, what are they? He says, Chait ne'emar al netia miderech hara'ui. Chait means going off the right path, and it includes whether you do it b'shoigeg b'meizid, whether you do it on purpose or inadvertently, right? The whole point is as long as it's not done as an act of heresy, it's a chait. You just you move. We all do that. We move off the path. Well, I speak for myself. I moved off the path on occasion, right? Where it should be the right path. Okay. Then he says, so that's then he says, we've got this avon. What is an avon? An avon is a person who decides to do something intellectually, on purpose. He actually goes through a process to really get to that point. So therefore, an avon is always done on purpose, and a pesha is it's somebody who, the way the Malbim wants to say, who rebels, who really, it's a person who has a certain level of rebellion out of their own disgust in the process of living Yiddishkeit. So it's a very personal pesha. A person doesn't want to be part of that because they don't feel that they identify with it. So there's chait, which is just a deviation. There's avon, which is a decision to make the chait, and then there's pesha. Pesha, we've learned in Daf Yomi all the time the concept of pshia. Pshia means you do something that's negligent. So negligence, in this case, a pesha, the way the Malbi wants to present it, is that you have a certain mindset or an understanding around that thing that you're unhappy with, and therefore you do what you do. So it's like in a way it's negligent because the person didn't really go into the deep understanding of that which you've decided to go against. So those are different types of sin.
It's not a rebel. It's not a rebel.
Yeah, a rebel. But it's a rebel without thought. It's like what's going on in the world today, where people they just go against whatever there is, just without really thinking it all the way through. So he says that all these dark things come, that it comes, you have to be specific. Why do you have to specify each one? And he says we can understand why, because how do we know when a person actually does something b'shoigeg, when a person does something inadvertently, or he does something b'mezid, or does it on purpose? And it says, Kasher magia adam levidui hu moimer, when a person comes to the vidui, he says the following, Ani, I, Ribbonu shel Olam, eini yodea ma ze chetu, mahu pesha, mahu avon. He says, the truth is, I don't really know. Chatati, aviti, or pashati, I don't really know which were the things that I did, whether a chet, whether a avon, whether a pesha, what was the real nature of this thing that I did. Ani yodea, ki ischarachti mincha. All I do know is that whatever it is that I did, it distanced me from you. The truth is, I don't really know how I got to this point. You know, there are certain things that I thought that they were b'shoigeg, they were inadvertent. But the truth is, I was like, it was a purposeful, unpurposeful. Mezid shebamezid. Says Hinela Marshall, it's an amazing marshal that he brings that of a real life thing that happened to him. He says a Jew came to, this is Rav Soloveitchik telling the story. A Jew came to him. He wanted to send his daughter to a very Lani university. He doesn't give one or give the name of the university. This is, you know, sorry, 1 second. He doesn't give the name of the university, but it's clearly one of those great Ivy League universities in the 1950s where there wasn't much Yiddishkeit happening. You know, nowadays there's minyanim and all these different things on that. But at that point in time, in the Ivy League universities, to be a Jew on those universities was very exclusive. So he says that his father comes and he says, I want to send my daughter there. She's got in, it's you know, it's big yichus. So he says, he said, I don't think that it's a good idea to send your daughter there because she's going to have to stay in the res, and in the res she's not going to come up to the greatest influence. So the father says, don't worry, you know, you don't have to worry about my daughter. I've brought her up properly, I've given her the right values, everything. Aval, what happened? But he's absolutely convinced. He doesn't have to worry. He's 100% confident. Nothing's going to happen to your daughter. So what happens is, after a year, he comes to me, he's crying. So what happens? Obviously, it's going to happen, right? She's coming out of a protective environment. She meets this lovely guy who's friendly and warm and all in this strange place where she is, and he's not Jewish. And now she's now going out with a non-Jewish guy. So he says, and that's what he says, is that first part, when he sent his daughter into that environment, was that shoigeg or mezid? Was it a mistake thing, or did he purposely send his daughter so she could go find herself a non-Jewish husband? Obviously not. However, he says, ilu yada shekach yaleh b'sofa, had he known that was what happened, obviously he would have done everything in his power to not allow his daughter to go to that space. The truth is, he did what he did, b'shoigeg. He didn't mean for this to happen. Aval. And now he asks this question, and this is our personal accountability that is so powerful from Rav Soloveitchik. Aval ha'im behemet shoigeg. Was it really shoigeg? Was it really? And did he do, you know, and that's really about us. I mean, it's an amazing story because it's so real, right? We say, you know, I did it inadvertently, whatever, but if we had really gone through the process and really put in the effort, would it have been b'shoigeg? I don't know. That's a good question. Okay. Zohi dugma echad. He says, this is just one example of many. He says, this is, so beautiful. He says, this is the thing, when we have dilemmas in our lives, the extent to which we really go backwards and forwards. And, you know, in certain things, we're so makpid. We're so makpid on certain things in kashrus and corona and all these things. But how makpid are we on all these things? Do we know whether we are shoigeg or mezid? Really? So we stand before Hashem and say, the truth is we don't know. The only one who really knows is the Ribbonu shel Olam. And that's why we say, chatati, aviti, pashati. You, Hashem, you decide, was it avon, a chait, or pesha? I can't decide. I'm obviously going to go the easiest route and say that's a chait. I did it. I deviated off the path. It wasn't real. But the reality is that maybe it was. I don't know. He says that, like that basic story that we all know of that simple yid who goes into shul. He goes into shul. He doesn't know how to read. He doesn't know how to sing. He doesn't know the nusach. He doesn't know what the bracha is. He doesn't know anything. But he knows Aleph Beis, and he's standing for Hashem, and he says, you take, Hashem, take the letters, and you make those into the different beautiful tefillahs that they need to be. That really is the concept of us saying, Chatati, Aviti, Pashati. I don't really know what I did. I don't really know the form of what I did. What form it took, whether it was b'mezid, b'shoigeg, the only one who really knows is what we call HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Zichronot, the Yodea Ta'alumot. Hashem knows all the secrets. And when we're able to stand before Him and to say that, then that's really is the ultimate of what we're trying to do, is just to say, Hashem, you take the things that we've done, you take them forward, and you see what they are, I'm giving them over to you. So that really is a beautiful concept in the dilemmas in our lives, that how far do we really go to analyze them? How far have we really looked into it? When we say, I don't understand how that happened. Is that true? Was it just something that we avoid, and we try to avoid it? So I thought that would be a nice way to start the week. Coming up, please God, we'll continue we'll start a new essay tomorrow, and please God, finish it before Rosh Hashanah. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. It's great.